David said, I had the same reaction when booting the shooter Second Sight ages ago on GameCube. Default Y-axis non-inverted with no option to invert. Story mode sounds like an accessibility feature. That makes sense. And I think more and more, especially in RPG or story-heavy games, we're seeing a developer trend of including like a story difficulty or otherwise non-challenge mode designed to allow you to progress through the game and see the stuff without actually having to do anything. Baldur's Gate 3 has such a mode, for example. I just click Restore Defaults? I don't think so. No. Start a new game of the Ace Attorney Chronicles. What is this?
The Empire of Japan. After opening its doors, a push for cultural transformation brought great waves of Western influence to this far eastern island nation. The revolution washed over the land, making life in the capital exciting and unsettling. It was a period of great change, and some was swept away by the tide.
Blam.
But for one man, the turbulence of that era was just the beginning of an extraordinary story.
Bienvenue la Carnival. Welcome to the carnival. (22nd of November, 8:43 a.m. Supreme Court of Judicature, Defendants Antechamber 5. Have I played an attorney game before? I've watched a bit of Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, but I've not ever played before. I still can't believe it. I still can't believe this is happening. How can it be that just beyond the doors to this quiet little chamber is the highest court in Japan waiting to decide my fate? What? Oh no, nothing. Save your glares, murderer. Sorry. My name is Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Ryunosuke, that's quite a name. I'm a second-year student at the Imperial Yume University. 3 days ago, I somehow found myself in the middle of a horrifying incident. And now, here I am, awaiting my trial. That's enough! He's not obliged to have listened to such abuse, officer. We're indoors. What is your headscarf? All right, you know what? It's getting a little too anime in here. And who are you? I'm this man's lawyer. Can't you tell by my outfit? I'll be defending him today. Lawyer? Yes, and until the judge has given his verdict on the case, no one has the right to treat him as a criminal. So you will hold your tongue, or I will cut it out. Technicalities. Look at you. You haven't even graduated yet. You don't have your lawyer kimono. And yet, I still seem to know better than you know how a court officer should behave. If you've never seen the Ace Attorney games, by the way, these are an excellent way to learn the ins and outs of the Japanese legal system. Of course. Sorry. What are you apologizing to me for? Oh, I suppose that wasn't my fault. But really, Kazuma, I never meant you to drag you into this. I'm sorry. Actually, that's true. Any and all legal systems you will learn by watching this game. Here you go again, apologizing. Just like always. Though I must say, you've been all over the newspapers these past few days. He's got a tiny fan. Like the curtains seem like they're fine. Yumei University professor murdered in cold blood by students. But obviously, you didn't actually do it, did you? Of course not. You have to believe me. I didn't do it. I could never murder someone. Then there's nothing to worry about. Straighten yourself up. Hold your head high. You mean, I believe you. I know you're innocent, Ryunosuke. Kazuma Asogi, my best friend, also in his second year at Yumei University. But he's far more clever than I. A star student, in fact. He's not even a qualified lawyer. Ryonsuke. Okay, thank you for the pronunciation assist, Sirius. I am not a Japanese name expert. Ryonsuke. Got it. The very concept of lawyers is only a few years old. Like I told you, you're going to learn a lot here. Here in Japan, anyway, my qualifications don't mean much. Yet. You said exactly the same thing 3 days ago. But I'm proud to have a friend like you, Kazuma, truly. 3 days ago. Yes, that's when all this started. Cue flashback. Congratulations, Kazuma. It looks like he looks so much younger 3 days ago. It looks like you're going to get to study abroad at last. I know. I've been forever dreaming of this day. Finally, these government elites have acknowledged my academic achievements and successes in court. So you'll be representing Japan as you immerse yourself in the most sophisticated legal system in the world. I'm really happy for you, and proud as your friend. There's not a soul in the university who doesn't know Kazuma's name. He's a living legend. It's like there's some mysterious aura billowing around his temple. I want to bring about change in our own legal system. Okay, so more like Kazuma than Kazuma. Yeah, Kazuma. That's why I have to cross the ocean to see the real thing with my own eyes. Part of the British Empire. I wish I could see it too. Then come with me. We'll have a wild time tearing up the streets of Her Majesty's City of London together. If only it were that simple. Oh dear, look at the time. I'd better be going. All right, I'll see you later. I think I'll stay and enjoy this place a while longer. Good idea. After all, it's not every day you get to visit a high-class Western restaurant like this. See you in English class tomorrow then, partner. It was straight after that. That's when it happened. Sogi, may I have a word? Nice stash, sir. Professor, I didn't know you were coming. Well, this case has personal significance to me. But never mind that for now. Asogi, you should go immediately to the judge's chambers. To His Excellency's chambers? Why? He was looking for you. You were advocating for the defense in this trial was a sudden decision. It seems there may be some confusion about procedures today as a result. Who is this man? I feel as though I've seen him at university before. I see. I'll go at once then. I shall accompany you. All right then. Thanks, Kazuma. Dot, dot, dot. Well, this is awkward. If I may... No, he punched me in the face. Yes, sorry? You must be the defendant. Ryonsuke, that's right. My name is Yujin Mikotoba. I'm a professor of forensic medicine at Yume University. Ah, Professor Mikotoba. I've heard that name from Kazuma before. As I recall, he's been pushing to get the government to agree to Kazuma studying abroad. Asogi has told me about you. You and he are best friends, I understand. As such, I feel you should know. Know what? Well, as you've no doubt heard, Asogi has been granted permission to go and study in Great Britain. However, if he should fail to defend you in today's trial, he will be executed. I'm afraid that permission will be revoked, and never granted again. What? Nani? As I suspected, you were unaware of this. I had a feeling Asogi may have chosen not to tell you. He's agreed to defend me, knowing that if he fails, his dreams will be shattered? Smack. But I don't understand. Why would the government do such a thing? The administration has to choose from a large number of applicants for overseas study. It's very difficult to persuade them to grant permission, even in the most favorable of circumstances. I don't believe it. But Smack. I didn't do it, I swear. I'm not a murderer. I'm sure that's true. Nevertheless, I can assure you that proving your innocence will be no easy task. You see, there are certain peculiarities about today's trial. Sorry? What do you mean, peculiarities? You'll soon understand once proceedings get underway. But then what should I do? Well, naturally, I'm not going to suggest doing anything that could lead to a conviction. Right, so as soon as the trial starts, the judge will pose a certain question to the defense. Did you do the crime? When that happens, you must answer before anyone else. You must say, I do. I do? But what will be the question? Surely not? Do you accept the accusations brought before you? Of course not. Defendant. Court is about to begin. Proceed to the courtroom at once. Dramatically. Will you, the defendant, take me for your lawfully wedded judge? I do. Ah, it would seem our surreptitious discussions are about to be cut short. So allow me to summarize. Kazuma Asogi must not be the defense lawyer in this trial. Of course, as the defendant, the final decision is yours. What are you waiting for? Do you want to be found guilty for failing to appear? Get moving. There's no point in anyone advocating for the likes of you anyway. This is it. If this trial goes badly, Kazuma's dreams of studying abroad are over. And what's more, I'll be found guilty of murder. And so, with absolutely no idea of what lay ahead, I embarked on that unforgettable trial. My one and only chance of proving my innocence. The trial would decide my destiny. 22nd of November, 9 a.m. Supreme Court of Judicature. Courtroom 2. The eyeballs, though. So this is a courtroom. You made it to second year university and you don't know what a courtroom looks like. Alright. The Supreme Court of Judicature. No court in the land has more power. Also, who are you even looking at? Oh, I guess those guys. I don't much like the look of those people sitting in the public gallery. Lots of military and other uniforms in there. It must be a windy courtroom. Yeah, hold on to your papers. The powers that be have demanded that this be a secret trial. Like they do. A secret trial? A trial that's closed to ordinary members of the public. Only military and government officials may attend. What? But why? It'll become clear in time. But for now, you need to concentrate. It's about to begin. Yeah. During the trial, dramatic details may be revealed at the most intense moment possible. We call this procedure discovery, as in you discover things in the middle of the trial. The court will now hear the trial of Ryunosuke Naruhodo. The prosecution is ready, Your Excellency. As is the defense. The eyeball's still going, though. Before we begin, there is one point of order I would like to confirm. Yesterday evening, the defense made a last-minute request for a change of advocate. That's correct, Your Excellency. I made the request myself. Normal procedure is for the defendant's advocacy to be decided 2 days prior to trial. As this is an unusual circumstance, I am obliged to ask for final confirmation now. Who advocates for the defendant in this trial? Dun, dun, dun. This is it! This must be the question. Who's going to defend me? That's the question the professor meant. But then, if I say I do, that means I'll be self-representing. I need to answer quickly. What should I do? I do. Your Excellency, no confirmation is needed. As I'm standing here beside the defendant, I hope it's clear who will advocate for his defense. Me! What is the meaning of this unruly outburst? I would like to inform the court that I, Ryunosuke, will be defending myself. You'll be... What? What are you playing at, Ryunosuke? Professor Mikotoba told me everything just now before the trial. He did what? He said that your dreams of studying abroad would be dashed if you were to lose. How sad. It means you don't have faith in me. You think I won't be able to get you off. Whoa, I didn't say that. No, it's not that, really. It's just that, well, on the off chance that things don't go well for me, I couldn't bear to be the reason that you... Yes. I knew that's how you'd feel. Which is exactly why I decided not to tell you. Professor Mikotoba shouldn't have stuck his nose in. Wait, are you allowed to have that sword in here? Very well. The court hereby recognizes the defendant's desire to advocate for himself in today's trial. Well, well. Does the accused admit defeat already? Renouncing his own counsel, really?
Objection!
Objection! Make no mistake, counsel. This merely shows that the defendant's innocence is so apparent, he's confident he can speak for himself. Isn't that so, Naruhodo-san? Wasn't an objection. Oh, yes. Yeah, exactly. Exactly what I wasn't thinking. I'm not confident at all. In fact, my mind's a complete blank. I realize you're in charge now, but still, try not to look so bewildered. This prosecutor's a recurring character in the series, widely known as arrogant, inept, and a pushover. Great. Well, for a mere university student to be brought before the Supreme Court. You must have perpetrated a most heinous crime indeed. Baseless speculation, Your Honor. As you are no doubt aware, this is the Supreme Court of Judicature in Japan. Accordingly, the very highest standards of conduct are expected for all present. Do I make myself clear, Defendant Naruhodo? Yes, Your Excellency. It is therefore my duty to assess your competence for the task you have undertaken. My competence? What does that mean? That's not a good start. He's questioning your ability to do the job. Well, he can't be questioning it more than I am. So, let's start with the very simplest of questions. Uh-oh. Yes! Kindly state before the court the name of the victim in this case. Well, that's easy enough. I've heard his name more times than I'd care to remember. Wait. I'm so nervous I can't even remember that. What was it again? You can ask. Let me guess. Your mind's gone blank. You know me so well. All the relevant information for this case can be found in the court record. But I can't even find that. It's simple. You can access the court record with the press of E. If you ever forgot something, just consult that. It's all in there. Just have to press E? E to E. By switching to people. John H. Wilson. Was it a visiting professor of medicine? So remember, everything to do with the current case can be found in the court record. Now, you'd better not keep His Excellency waiting any longer. Go on. Find the victim in the people section of the court record, then press R to present.
Yes!
Yes! The victim's name was John. Uh-oh. Well, at least you can remember the name of an esteemed member of your own university. Dr. Wilson was a visiting professor from England, invited to Yumei University 3 years ago. Indeed, which is the reason why this case has such profound implications. The British Empire is at present our country's most valuable foreign ally. And as most of you will be aware, we have just signed a new treaty together after lengthy negotiations. There can't be anyone who hasn't heard of the Anglo-Japanese Treaty of Friendship and Navigation. And yet, despite these delicate circumstances, smack, the blood of an Englishman has been spilt on our soil. Fee-fi fo fum. You two are both undergraduates at the Imperial Yumei University, are you not? Murdering a professor from the very institution that provides your education? Have you no honor? The grounds for expulsion, at least. This case is coming under great scrutiny from our allies on the other side of the world. The court, therefore, wishes for a speedy resolution to this matter. In other words, our feeble government is scared of upsetting England's policymakers. And you're a convenient and expendable scapegoat to blame for this crime. So that's why this trial has these unusual peculiarities, is it? Exactly. Our government needs to convict someone as quickly as possible. All because the victim was an Englishman. Yes, Dr. Wilson was an Englishman. But nationalities and treaties won't make any difference for me here. The fact is, I was there at the scene of the crime. Oh dear, look at the time. I'd better be going. Alright, I'll see you later. I think I'll just stay and enjoy this place a bit longer. good idea. After all, it's not every day you get to visit a high-class Western restaurant like this. See you in English class tomorrow, then, partner. And yeah, whatever I'm me, I really like games that I just get to kind of read aloud to stream. I think it actually fits quite well. For the vibe and the voice, of course. The British Empire. It's incredible to think. ... Thinking ... Different from voiced aloud ... just to be clear. Wait. I've seen that man at university. I'm sure he's a visiting professor from Great Britain. I don't know his name, but still, I should go and say hello. So I went over to the professor's table and introduced myself to Dr. Wilson. Now then, let me pose my next question to you, Defendant Naruhodo. Yes, Your Excellency. How did this professor of medicine, Dr. John H. Wilson, lose his life? State before the court the cause of death. Cause of death? Well, obviously that was, Ryunosuke. Remember that in courts, every assertion must be backed up by evidence. By evidence? But how? Find the piece of evidence that shows the professor's cause of death, and select present. Do it. Death occurred a little bit after 2 p.m., caused by loss of blood from a gunshot to the chest. Bullet did not penetrate.
Yes!
Yes. He's dead, Your Honor. According to this document, the victim suffered a hemorrhagic death due to gunshot trauma. Learn to read, you imbecile. That's the post-mortem report, I take it. Sorry, yes, that's right. The post-mortem report. In the West, a doctor dissects corpses to identify the cause of death in an autopsy. Here in Japan, we have a spirit medium do it. A police officer merely inspects the body and draws conclusions that way. Oh, that works too. Oh, I see. As long as I'm not going to be tested on any of this later. This is a so-called photographic print of the scene of the crime. Are you questioning the authenticity of this photograph? You can clearly discern scorch marks around the bullet hole produced by the powder explosion. In other words, we should assume that the victim was shot at close range. Thank you, counsel. The court will accept this modern scientific evidence into the record. Photographic print of the victim has been entered into the court record. So that's a photographic print. Well, that's something I've never seen before. It's clearly superior to a drawing. The detail is incredible. Very well. I am satisfied with your answers. Let us start the trial. Certainly, Your Excellency. So, without further ado, in order to better apprise the court with the facts of this case, the prosecution hereby calls its first witness, who was there at the scene of the crime when it happened. Uh-oh. This is it, then. I think I may have worked out what the professor had in mind. The professor? You mean Dr. Mikotoba? Yes, clearly you're the defense lawyer today, not me. But that doesn't mean... Well, I can still act as your assistant. Of course. When he was speaking with me before, he simply said, Kazuma Asogi must not be the defense lawyer in this trial. He really has been sticking his oar in, hasn't he? Maybe, but any help you can give me would be greatly appreciated, Kazuma. Well, my first piece of advice is, rein in that crazy look of bewilderment and control the cold sweats. That's good advice, actually. Only if you rein in that crazy headband and control the cold stares first. Witness! State your name and occupation for the court. Of course, my name is Satoru Hosonaga. I am the head waiter at a Western-style restaurant called La Carnival. Sir? You're right. You seem to be coughing up some, tomato sauce. It's a regular occurrence. It really doesn't bother me. Well, it should. As everyone knows, the capital's southeastern quarter was developed for foreign visitors some years ago. It's become a fashionable district now, full of hotels to accommodate overseas guests. This grim crime occurred in one of the district's so-called restaurants, an Occidental eatery, 3 days ago. Understood. Hosonaga-san, you will kindly tell the court everything you can about the incident. At once, sir. And no petty interjections from the aspiring lawyer boy, please. Perspiring, maybe, but aspiring? It was just after 2 p.m. on the day in question. We have few diners at that type of day. The lunchtime rush was over, and there were only 3 tables still occupied. That fits in with my memory. There was hardly anyone else in the place. It was when I was in the kitchen, putting away crockery and cutlery. A gunshot rang out, so I hurried out to the dining area to see what had happened. I found the victim, an English gentleman, slumped in his chair. And standing immediately beside him, gun in hand, was the accused university student.
Yes!
Yes! That was me! Hold on, let me just clarify something here. While I did pick up a gun that I found lying on the floor beside the professor, I didn't shoot him.
Objection!
I believe I asked you to refrain from petty interjections. The court wishes to listen to the witness's report of what he saw, you amateur! But the next time you interrupt at an inappropriate time, you will be penalized, Defendant Naruhodo. Don't worry, Ryunosuke, you'll have your chance to fight back. For now, we must just quietly listen in to the witness. If I may confirm one point, waiter. Standing beside the victim with a gun in his hand was the same man we see here in court today. Yes, without question. I see. And apart from the accused, was there anyone else standing beside the victim? No. There was no one else around that table but the deceased Englishman and the university student. Huh? Wait, what did he just say? There was no one else around that table. What's the matter, Ryunosuke? That's just not right. I went over to Dr. Wilson to say hello. There was a woman sitting opposite him at his table. Really? And that's not something the waiter could have missed? Been warned about interjecting, but still, what should I do? I was told I would be penalized. Alright, we'll wait. Desperately want to say something. I was told not to interject. Ryunosuke, your parents tell you to study. You're the kind of man who would diligently get to work, aren't you? I suppose I am. I'd never have gotten into Yume University otherwise. But you can't just always follow the rules in life, you know? If you don't say what you want to say right now, you'll seriously regret it when you're found guilty. Alright, you've scared me. I won't forget that piece of advice in a hurry. And there is something I want to say. I'm just going to shut my eyes and say it. I'm just going to shut his eyes. Yes! Just a moment, please. Dr. Wilson wasn't alone that day. I'm sure of it. There was a lady sitting with him at the same table.
Objection!
Dear me, what are we going to do with you? With your blatant disregard for court proceedings, I'm beginning to wonder if you're not a fraud. I'm not a fraud, I'm a second-year university student. I can't be fraudulently representing something that I'm not even in the first place. Could it be that the accused, this mere student, is not a real lawyer? I just explained this. You can't be both of these things. But I'm sure of what I saw. Matsunaga-san, is there any chance you're mistaken? Perhaps your memory of events is hazy? No. The deceased gentleman came to dine alone. Don't believe it. I actually have a rough plan of the restaurant as it was that day. Please, have a look if you'd like to. That's where they were killed. Sketch of the establishment's layout, drawn by yourself. Headley, I presume. That's right, I'm afraid I used the back of my business card. It was a turbulent situation. However, as you can see, the gentleman in question was seated alone. Well, you're clearly a very conscientious waiter. Thank you, sir. Wait. The guy who coughs up blood on a regular basis is a waiter? And we don't have a problem with that. Alright. The court will take this plan and add it to the court record as evidence. Oh, well... Is there a problem? Hand the plan to the court officer at once. Of course. Here you are. Times were different back then. This predates health codes. Okay. Fair enough. What was that about? He's been completely calm and collected until now. Something seems to have shaken him. The waiter's business card has been entered into the court record. Sound of coughing. He's losing it. So, the court has now heard a precis of the case. Yes, at the moment the gunshot was heard in the restaurant, the only person in close proximity to the victim was the defendant on trial today. It would seem we are looking at a black and white case here. Defendant Naruhodo. Yes, Your Excellency. If you admit your guilt at this stage, the court is willing to look mercifully upon you. In other words, you may have some small reprieve in terms of your inevitable punishment. I called this waiter as an unsworn witness in order to explain the details of the case to the courts. But I must warn the defense, if you are determined to pursue matters further in this trial, prosecution has decisive evidence from sworn witnesses who were present at the scene of the crime. How many people were in the empty restaurant? What do you think I should do, Kazuma? What do you mean? Well, I'm going to be found guilty one way or another here. Wouldn't it be sensible to plead guilty at this stage and hope for a more lenient sentence? So-called witnesses, mind you. Everyone keeps telling me this trial is unusual about these peculiarities. You've said it, Professor. Mikutoba's said it, and so has the judge and the prosecution. I'm scared of what lies ahead if I push this. As I said from the outset, I believe you're innocent. I trust you. And yet, despite knowing that, you're willing now to throw that trust back in my face? Is that it? What? If the accused is in fact innocent, then a defense lawyer is duty-bound to prove that innocence by whatever means necessary, hence the sword. Are you just going to abandon that duty? Are you going to give up on yourself? The battle hasn't even begun yet. Objection! The defense pleads not guilty, Your Excellency. We invite the prosecution to stop making empty threats and bring out its so-called witnesses. Then we'll see just how decisive the evidence really is. Indeed. Prosecutor Ouchi, please continue with your proceedings. Well, you're warned. The young can be so reckless. You know, many call me a saint, but I can be a devil when I want to be. Ugh. In a few short moments from now, that dumbstruck young mouth of yours will be silenced forever. The prosecution calls its next witness, says. Very well, officer, bring forth the witnesses at once. We'll question them all at the same time. It's Waluigi and some other guy. Witnesses, kindly state your names and occupations for the court. Yes, sir. The Great Nippon Imperial Army's Sergeant Ayesa Nosa reporting for duty, sir. Ayesa Nosa? Yes, sir, no, sir? Is that your name? Myself, I find employ as a purveyor of fine articles of antiquity from the efflorescence of our nation, Nippon, and conduct my trade from Rasute, a humble premises in the 2nd District. Korakuta. Curio Korakuta, at your service. An antique dealer and a soldier. What an unusual pairing. Both of these gentlemen were present at the restaurant on the day in question. They must be the diners at the other table that waiter mentioned. Myself, I habitually make tea of the most exquisite aroma at the establishment in question, always post-noon, and not infrequently converse with interested parties regarding the curios with which I make my business. Can't understand a word that old man is saying. He's an antique dealer, and it sounds like he's a regular at La Carnival. He seeks out potential customers who may have an interest in antiques and tries to sell his wares to them. He obviously targets La Carnival because it's a high-class restaurant with rich clientele. Right, I see. Although, to be honest, that sergeant looks more like he'd be a seller rather than a buyer. Now, you both witnessed the precise moment of this most atrocious incident. Is that correct? Affirmative. The enemy unit was seen attacking the foreigner in what can only be described as an act of war. Sir, it was that black uniformed rogue infantryman over there who unloaded his firearm, sir. This man's as impossible to understand as the other. I'm almost sure I heard a strange noise during that last thing he said. So, this is the decisive evidence the prosecution was threatening? The soldier is claiming that he actually saw the precise moment you shot the victim dead. Yes. Well, are you starting to feel uncomfortable? If I'm honest, I was feeling uncomfortable from the very beginning. Now, the court will hear your formal testimony, please. You will state everything you saw at the precise moment the incident occurred. Sir, yes, sir. Standing by, ready to report, sir. Unsavory memories of a most acerbic afternoon. Witness testimony. Earlobe jiggle physics. What the witnesses saw. I was ingesting a regulation beefsteak at the restaurant while having a tactical discussion with the old man. Myself, I was extolling the virtues of a particularly fine golden curio to this military gentleman. At that precise moment, firearm was discharged. Did you shoot another one at that baby? I observed the enemy's actions with my own eyes. The black uniformed varsity cadet fired on the English civilian, and from the back, the cowardly little weasel. I was on my hands and knees investigating the whereabouts of my mysteriously absconded precious curio. Well, so you, Sergeant Nosa, actually witnessed the vital moments. You saw the split second when the defendant fired the weapon at the victim. Yes, sir. Affirmative, sir. That wicked university cadet, sir. The cruel and unforgivable enemy. What times we live in when an Englishman may be assailed in the broad light of day. But this is ridiculous. I didn't shoot anyone. Is that really true, Ryunosuke? Yes. All I did was pick up the gun that I saw lying on the floor. And fired a few times. After I'd said hello to Dr. Wilson, I went back to my table and sat drinking some coffee. Then, when I'd finished, I got up from my seat to leave the restaurant, when I noticed an English-made gun next to the chair where the professor was sitting. Curio is also a gun, that's right. Thought perhaps the professor had dropped it. So I bent down, and just as I was picking it up, bang. Well, if that's the truth, there was obviously a criminal on the scene somewhere. And somewhere in these two witnesses' testimonies, there's a clue as to who that criminal was. There is? Yunask, you must exercise your right to cross-examine these witnesses. Cross-examine? Do it, now! As we have heard, Your Excellency, there is no room for doubt in the testimony of these witnesses. The defendant is clearly guilty. It is time to bring this despicable student to justice. Certainly, the testimony of the court has just heard eliminates any vestige of doubt. Therefore, it is my grave duty to declare the verdict of this... What in the name of the Emperor is the meaning of this outburst? I am... the defense demands the right to cross-examination. Dear me, dear me. Let me guess. The Hachimaki headband boy next door told me to do it. How pathetic. Huh? How did he know? How did he know? The prosecution objects. This is a clear waste of time. The defendant obviously has no experience. How can he possibly carry out a cross-examination?
Objection!
Objection. The defense is asserting its right to a cross-examination. Whether or not you think he's capable of it is irrelevant. Kazuma is so commanding. Very well. Let the defense conduct a cross-examination of the witnesses. All right, this is where the battle really begins, Ryunosuke. I don't even know what I have to do. Isn't it obvious? You have to expose the lies with my sword. You didn't fire the gun, which means that what that soldier said has to be a lie. Well, yes, but it's just a case of proving it. And the key to doing that is evidence. Right? Evidence. All you need to do is present some decisive and indisputable evidence that proves the witness is lying. Now let's go. Don't let them beat you. All right, then. It's all or nothing. Am I playing it or watching it? I don't think there's a difference. What the witnesses saw. We've got, like, thing now. Was ingesting a regulation beefsteak at the restaurant while having a tactical discussion with the old man. He was extolling the virtues of a fine golden curio. Firearm was discharged. Fired on the English civilian from the back, the cowardly little weasel. So I'm supposed to present... the photo that shows that he was shot from the front.
Yes!
At this time. Sweating profusely. ... Contradiction! Uninstall Brain, thanks for 17 months in the Prime sub, by the way. What are you playing at, cadet? What is the meaning of this subordination? Thrusting some photographic print in my mustache? Inconsistency! Sir. I mean, yes. There's a clear inconsistency here. What nonsense. What can this print possibly tell us we don't already know? Well, obviously that, I know what I want to say, but the words won't come out of my mouth. I think this proves beyond any doubt, Your Excellency, that there is no place for an amateur in this grand courtroom. This is so frustrating. Oh, please. Surely this doesn't require an explanation. It couldn't be more plain. To spell it out would be an insult to the court. So let's insult them. Kazuma, what? What are you talking about? It's apparent from a single glance at the photographic print presented by the defense that there's a clear discrepancy here with the sergeant's statement. Sergeant Yasunosa. Yes, sir. What, sir? The statement you just made was this. Aired on the English civilian from the back. Yes, sir. Affirmative, sir. I witnessed the crime with my own military-grade eyes, sir.
Yes!
But no, that just can't be. And why not, cadet? Because I said so. Take a close look at the print. The victim, Dr. Wilson, died from a bullet wound to the chest. From the front. Sergeant, according to your witness statement, the culprit shot the victim from behind. And that is the obvious discrepancy here. Well, how do you explain it? Oh, there's the baby. Well, what was that? Something just popped up from behind him, but he pushed it down again. Certainly, there's clear discrepancy with the facts here. Would you not agree, Sergeant Nosa? Yes, sir. At this juncture, that would appear to be indisputable. Until the moment I heard the firearm discharge, my eyes were firmly fixed on the delicious La Carnival steak, sir. The last testimony the court heard has proven one thing beyond all reasonable doubt. This witness, Sergeant Ayasanosa, did not see the defendant firing a gun at all. That's absurd. I think the conclusion we must draw is simple. There is no place for an amateur prosecutor here in this grand courtroom. Or a baby. Ah! There's been a complete turnabout in the mood of this trial, just from that one discrepancy. So this is what being an ace attorney is all about. But I definitely saw him. That university cadet there. He was pointing the firearm directly at the victim's back.
Yes!
But I never fired the gun. All I did was pick it up off the floor. And you, old man, you didn't see the moment the victim was shot either. Myself, I have already been quite clear. The gunshot interested me not. I was far too busy on the floor. Too busy on the floor. Sorry, what were you doing? Hunting for treasure. Treasure. Indeed. The Hohe Erekoban, my prized coin. On each occasion when I visit that restaurant, it is my habitude to place in my bosom pocket a particular trinket of interest from my shop, Razute, in the hope of meeting a rich diner who might like to buy it from you. On the day under scrutiny, it was to the military man that I proffered my Hohe treasure. Believe that he would purchase such a rare find, I did not, but I was presented with little alternative. And then, after averting my eyes for the briefest of moments, it was there no more. It simply vanished. The Koban vanished? Hunting around under the table I was, in case mayhap it had fallen there. And then it happened. Lamb. That's what it sounded like. You heard the gunshot, you mean? Indeed I did, but I heeded it not, for I was concerned only with finding my absconded Hoei treasure. Nothing could distract me. Out of interest, did you find the coin in the end? No. I see. That lamentable day, the precious Hoei Koban was lost to me. No doubt some unscrupulous scoundrel pocketed the prize coin for himself. As I am sure everyone present is aware, this case demands a swift and decisive resolution. Our government has promised to send a full report to Great Britain by telegraph this very afternoon. Nevertheless, the witness testimony the court has just heard was inconclusive. No matter how subservient our government feels it must be to the British. It would be unforgivable to deliver a verdict on this trial right now. What is your position, Prosecutor Ouchi? Worry not, Your Excellency. The defendant may have fled a tiger at the front gate, but he will find a wolf at the back. My witnesses have further testimony to make. Explain. Upon hearing their next statements, it will become abundantly clear that there is only one person who could possibly have committed this despicable crime. The equally despicable defendant, Ryunosuke Naruhodo. What? He really seems to have a despicable opinion of you, doesn't he? I move to cross-examine the wolf. Bonk. Very well. The court invites the witnesses to testify again. He will thoroughly explain the reasoning behind the prosecution's allegation. Is that clear? As clear as Kiriko glass, Your Excellency. Yes, sir. At once, sir. Awaiting signal to testify, sir. Excuse me, but there's a baby on you. I think. Affirmative. The newest member of the Nosa family to rise up through the ranks, sir. Ido. Ido Nosa. Ido Nosa. It would seem those straps are a sign of the sergeant being too strapped to afford a nanny. Ido, tension! Your father is about to quell the enemy. Watch and learn, my boy. Yeah, yes, sir, no, sir, I don't know, sir. That's right. The true culprit. Even if what I saw wasn't the precise moment the firearm was discharged, it's almost the same thing. Yes, pointing his gun at the foreign man he was, that young lad in black. That much I myself did see. Furthermore, a visual search of the premises at the time confirmed that we were the only personnel present. Indeed, alone he was, the Englishman, dining all by himself. Therefore, no one other than the black uniformed cadet could have dispatched the Englishman. Over and out. Sir. These testimonies are certainly compelling. Wait, that's nonsense. The victim, Dr. Wilson, wasn't alone at all. Please, enough of these outbursts already. But there was a woman. There was a young woman at his table. You must have seen her. Everyone there must have seen her.
Objection!
Objection! If you call yourself a lawyer, then you will respect the rules of the court and speak accordingly. We are not here to listen to your fantasies. It is evident beyond all reasonable doubt that the victim was alone at the time of the incident. The prosecution has photographic evidence of this fact. Is this a photographic print of the scene of the crime, counsel? Table for one. Indeed. Of the table at which the victim was dining, taken by an investigator immediately after the incident. This can be plainly seen. There is only one place set. Certainly, based on the appearance of this print, it would be reasonable to conclude that the victim was not in the company of anyone else. This doesn't make any sense. Court will add this new photographic evidence to the record. I don't understand. What's going on here? It's just not possible that nobody else saw that woman. The waiter said before the same thing. He maintains that Dr. Wilson came to the restaurant alone as well. That's not true. I saw her. I swear that I saw a woman with him. It would seem that we'll be able to telegraph the report to Great Britain on time after all. The witness testimonies we have just heard leave no further room for doubt. These are very sensitive political times, as we all know. The ink is still fresh on the treaty with Great Britain. To think that Takatsuchi Ouchi, will have contributed to the amity of these two great empires is an honor. How can this be happening? The judge is ready to rule. Stand tall, Ryunosuke. It's not over yet. What? What you say is true, then there's something going on here behind the scenes. Now is your chance to expose it, to draw out the truth in your cross-examination. I don't know, Kazuma. The defense is entitled to cross-examine the witnesses, but make it quick. Understood? Rules can be so unbending at times. Cross-examination 2. That's what they said. I'd like to look at this in more detail. Things to examine. I can even get a magnifying glass. Kind of cool. Need the seating chart, too. Interesting. Okay, so we have to contest that there were nobody else there. What do you think? What's the matter? Can't find anything. Can't find a clear discrepancy anywhere. I'm done for. I can't win this trial. No. No, 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 no. Listen. First thing to do is calm down. You can't expect witness statements to be full of holes every time. Just take your time and try to tease more information out of them first. What do you mean? You can choose to either press or present against each of the witness statements. The witness is saying something you're suspicious about. Press him. With a little luck, you may get more details, which could prove to be crucial, because you can then contradict those details. The important point is there's no sense in holding back. If anything even slightly jars with you, press the witnesses on it and press them hard. I'll press them like blocks of tofu. The professor wasn't alone in the restaurant, I'm sure of it. One way or another, this cross-examination is going to prove I'm right. It's time to press them for all they're worth. My fate depends on it. Yes, I didn't point it at him. It may be true that I was holding the gun at that point in time. I told you already, it was only because I picked it up off the floor. Well, obviously, as the culprit, that's the only way you could explain it away. I had just finished drinking my coffee, and I was about to leave the restaurant when I noticed a gun on the floor. So I picked it up. And at exactly that moment, bang, a gunshot rang in my ears. Full of events beyond our control, life is. Sorry, what do you mean? In your case, you found a pistol on the floor and picked it up, which precipitated this testing predicament. Whereas conversely, I failed to pick up the Kaban from the floor and find myself in an equally testing predicament as a result. Anyway, the fact remains, myself, I did see you, with pistol in hand, standing over the foreigner.
Yes!
Yes. You must have noticed someone else at Dr. Wilson's table. There was a lady there.
Objection!
As you have been at pains to point out time and time again, I feel I'm growing a callus in my ear. And yet, no one else appears to have caught even a glimpse of this woman. If only there'd been more people dining there at the time. Unfortunately, it was already past 2 p.m. when it happened. The quiet time between lunch and dinner in any so-called restaurant. No, of course the place was almost empty. It's what you'd expect. Certainly, 2 p.m. is neither here nor there in terms of a time to eat. I wonder if there was a reason why the victim was eating at that time of day, and why he was alone. Yes, Your Excellency, there was indeed a reason. There was? This was found in the victim's jacket pocket. What is that, Counsel? It's a medical report card, Your Excellency. It would seem that the victim had an appointment at a clinic prior to visiting the restaurant. Hot a clinic. Yes, there would indeed appear to be an entry for the date in question. 19th November, noon to past 1 p.m. The very day of the incident. So the victim went for a late lunch following his appointment. The explanation couldn't be more simple. The prosecution felt no need to submit this evidence before, as it really has no bearing on the case, but I'm going to introduce it now in the middle. Again, we call that discovery. We're going to discover the details of the case in the middle of the case. I wonder, what do you think, Ryunosuke? Well, it is hard to see how it could be related, really. Remember, you can request for it to be entered into the court record as evidence if you think it could be useful. Of course, submit it.
Yes!
Sounds like more paperwork for these nerds. If I may, I'd like to ask for that medical report card to be submitted as evidence, Your Excellency. On what grounds? Court has already heard conclusive witness testimony. Additional evidence would be extraneous. Not to mention that the victim's movements prior to his arrival at the restaurant are of no concern.
Objection!
Objection? Whether or not they are a concern is up to us to decide. We have a right to explore all possible avenues. Beg your pardon? You have no authority to refuse a perfectly valid request for the submission of evidence. Very well. The court will grant the defense's request. Youngsters these days are forever asserting their rights, their so-called rights. It's a most disturbing trend. Officer, kindly add the victim's medical report card to the court record. What we need right now is new clues. We have to explore things from every possible angle, even if they don't seem relevant at first. Right, I hear you. You can conspire to prolong this trial as much as you like, but it's the day after the festival already for you. Or perhaps you'd forgotten that these witness testimonies leave no room for doubt. Feel free to reiterate for the accused. all by himself. So I have new evidence. Medical report card, which I cannot inspect. Interesting. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. Excellent work. We've gleaned some new information now. Well, yes, but I don't feel like it changes much. I can't see that it brings any real discrepancies to light. I wouldn't be so sure. Let me see that medical report card you got before. Oh, you mean this thing? Yes, this is a brand new piece of evidence. So perhaps we should examine it in a little bit more detail. How? You'll notice that some pieces of evidence bear a magnifying glass. These are ones you may examine. Yeah, thanks. You mean the thing I literally just tried to do, but I can't do until you prompt me? Yeah. Thanks. Secret evidence, okay. So, partner, I think you should take a closer look at this medical report card. Can I do it now? No? See if there isn't something new to be learned by examining it in more detail. I'll see what I can do. Mr. John Wilson. It says hot a clinic on this medical report card. I hate clinics. Almost as much as I hate hospitals and surgeries. Aren't they all the same? When I was 5, I caught the only cold I've ever had in my life. And I remember, even though I felt awful already, I had this hideous injection in my right arm. Ugh, I'll never forget it. Never in my whole life. Most people would give their right arm to have had only one cold in their whole life. I don't think I would do that. Anyway, I don't think this is a clinic where they treat people for illnesses like that. Let's keep looking for clues. We don't want to miss anything. Wait a minute, what's this? Inside, some kind of ledger. Let's have a look. Some kind of medical history. There's an entry for the day the professor was killed. Sudden gunshot syndrome, of course. Oh no, wait. Extraction of molar with topical anesthesia. Extraction of molar? You mean he had a tooth taken out? It would seem so. Just before the incident, he'd had a bad tooth removed. Perhaps they used laughing gas. That's the most modern practice in the West for pain relief. Yes, I've heard of this anesthesia. Although it's hard to believe there's anything that can actually stop you from feeling pain. Ah, there's a cautionary note from the medical practitioner as well. Strictly no food or drink beside water for 3 hours post-procedure until anesthetic effects have passed. Really? Sounds like information worth bearing in mind. So, why was he in the restaurant? Is a good question to ask at this stage. With this new information, the meaning of that one particular statement totally changes. So, I think it's time we listen to the testimony again, don't you? Definitely. So now I can present this.
Yes!
With new context. Well, what about that last statement made by the witness? It seems perfectly reasonable to me. Exactly. Perfectly reasonable in every way. Perhaps you should take a leaf out of the witness's book and learn to be more reasonable yourself. Uh-oh. All right, I just need to calm down and think everything through again. Maybe I present the other thing. Oops. Yeah, I have to present the, this instead.
Yes!
Well, what about that last statement? Again. Okay, still not correct here. So I'm just challenging the wrong statement, perhaps. He wasn't dining.
Yes!
That's different. Well, I think, about what are you wittering, lad? Call yourself a lawyer? Wish I could. But first and foremost here, I'm the accused. Yunosk, everyone stumbles on their words occasionally. Under the circumstances, I wouldn't worry about it. Thanks, Kazuma. I could see it quite clearly in that cross-examination you just carried out. When you raised your hand straight up like that, purposefully, it filled me with determination. Don't feel like you have to choose your words carefully. Just say what you're thinking. Are you sure? All right, thanks for the advice. Correcta-san. This is a medical report card belonging to the victim. I see. And I don't see. What of it, boy? Comparing what is written on this report card with your witness statement, something clearly doesn't add up.
Objection!
Dear me, have you forgotten my words so soon, you amateur? Sorry, what? You are not to interrupt court proceedings with your amateurish drivel. But let's see if I can explain in words you might understand. It was after 2 p.m. in the afternoon when the victim was murdered at the restaurant. Whatever he may or may not have done before that time is completely irrelevant. But that's, remember, Yunosk, you don't have to use clever language or fancy words. Just make your point. Your Excellency, I believe we're finished here. There is surely no need to prolong this trial further. The witness testimonies the court have heard have been clear and concise. This medical report card has no bearing on the matter at all, for the simple reason that there is no one else besides this pale-faced pupil who could possibly have perpetuated the crime. This medical report card has nothing to do with the case? Do you really believe that? That outburst half petrified me, boy. Of course I believe it. How could it possibly be relevant? Perhaps because Hara Clinic, which issued the report card, is a dental clinic. Dun, dun, dun. A dental clinic? Is that supposed to mean something? Perhaps if I told you that the victim had just had a tooth extracted? What's this now? And furthermore, if I told you that as a result, the victim had been forbidden from eating for the rest of his life. Just what are you trying to say, cadet? He had orders not to eat? So what? It's all written up in here. No food or drink other than water for 3 hours. And no swimming either. What? No, that can't. Correct us on. What, boy? As you just heard, when he was killed sometime shortly after 2 p.m., the victim couldn't have been eating anything at all. Certainly not a steak. No. Additionally, there's more. You have assured the court that with unwavering self-confidence that the victim was dining alone. But he wasn't dining at all. He didn't have any teeth. The victim, as we now know, had just had one of his teeth extracted. Ah! Dramatic scream in court. Expertly done, partner.
Objection!
What is this nonsense, you little upstart? These are baseless accusations. Just look at this photographic evidence of a steak. You can clearly see the plate of food at the victim's table.
Objection!
Use your head. That's the very discrepancy we're talking about. Or can't you follow the logic? How dare you? I think it's fair to say that the tables in this restaurant case have turned. Wouldn't you agree, Ryunosuke? Oh, yes, I get it what you're trying to do. Yeah, definitely. So, having just undergone some dental surgery, the victim was unable to eat, which leaves one very crucial conundrum. Who was steak? The court will hear the opinion of the defense on this new puzzle. Immediately. Counsel? Oh, that's me. All right. The answer to this question is going to be pivotal. This is the start of you turning this trial around. Show them what you're made of. Okay. So, steak. Person eating the steak at the victim's table must have been me. It was me. It must have been a as yet unknown third party that we already saw. It was me, Dio. Obviously, it can only have been someone else who was sitting at the professor's table.
Objection!
You will not let this go, will you? There was no such person.
Yes!
There was, because I saw her. When the incident occurred, we know that the victim couldn't have been eating anything. Yet, we have evidence of a half-eaten steak on his table. Therefore, the only logical conclusion is that there was somebody else there eating that steak. We have strong evidence to support our assertion. It's clear that these witness testimonies are unreliable. More than usual. If the court decides to push through a ruling at this stage, there's no telling what could happen. We will lodge a formal complaint with the Ministry of Justice and pursue a fair retrial after the execution, relentlessly. Kazuma, are you insane? You would take on the government? Don't worry, counsel. I have no issue with you. What do you mean? I have issue with them. Those two witnesses in the stand. What are you talking about? We have demonstrated with evidence that the victim was not alone. So, if it now turns out that the two of you deliberately lied when giving your testimonies, obviously you'll be charged with perjury. That might be the only true thing we've said so far. Perjury. And since this is a murder trial, you will also be deemed complicit in the killing. Complicit? Murder? No! Hold. Negative. There was no mention of this at the tactical meeting. It was just following orders. That's what they all say. That's right, as the man says. Just say you never saw the gentlewoman. That's what they, told us. Oh. Oh, crap. What? What did you just say, old man? No. You were just following orders? Now, hold on, lad. I was, Say you never saw the gentlewoman. When you say gentlewoman, do you mean a lady? You saw the victim with a lady. What?
Objection!
Objection, Your Honor. Ladies are not relevant to the case. What is the meaning of all this? These witnesses gave false statements? If this is true, you pair, very upset about this. Binise, thanks for 54 months, closing in on 5 heckin' years. Holy moly. Just one simple slip of the tongue. Order, council, explain what is going on here. Lamb. It's painfully clear now. You tried to prevent these witnesses from telling the truth. Absolutely not. The prosecution knows nothing of this. Good denial. Then who's behind this? Who tried to make you keep your mouths shut? Well, Baby. That's classified. So you're prepared to be tried as a conspirator to this murder, are you? You wouldn't. That can't be happening. Ryunosuke, judging from the way they're reacting to this, I'd say they were sworn to silence by someone with considerable influence. It's the baby. However, I don't believe Ouchi had any idea. What are you saying? I mean, to wield that kind of influence, there are only a handful of possibilities. It could only have been the government, the military, or the police. Well, any ideas about who might be behind this? If we can affirm who tried to silence these witnesses, then we can continue our pursuit. We need to name whoever it was that tried to make the witnesses keep their mouths shut. Of course, we'll need evidence before we make any firm accusations. Evidence that proves whoever it was really did wield his or her power here. But how? How can we possibly? Remember how we made progress before? We examined the piece of evidence in more detail and found a clue as a result. Oh yeah, that's right. Well, that's not the only piece of evidence we have, is it? We need to re-examine everything and make sure there's nothing we've missed. There's no time to lose. I want answers. If it's proven that these witnesses have been manipulated, I assure you the penalty will be severe. Please, wait. Your Excellency. I had no idea about any of this. I swear to every Shinto god. I knew nothing. And what does the defense have to say about all this, Your Excellency. No time to think. I'm just gonna have to close my eyes and shout out the first name that comes into my head. Besides the prosecution, the only person with the necessary influence to manipulate the witnesses is... Can accuse Kazuma. Yujin, maybe. The dead guy did it. The waiter. And the witnesses. We accuse Mr. Mikotoba. Doesn't seem to be the prosecutor. Shout the first name that comes to mind. Mikotoba.
Yes!
Yes! There! What do you make of that? I think, Counsel, that you may want to close your ears as well as your eyes. Otherwise, the sighs of disappointment in the courtroom may very well deafen you. Oh. If you feel you must close your eyes in a crisis, might I suggest you keep your mouth shut next time, too? Otherwise, I may have to use the influence I have in this courtroom to shut it. Permanently. I don't know what it was about that a prosecutor exactly, but he really makes me wince in pain sometimes. I don't have a great deal of influence myself, but believe me, I can find other ways to make you keep your mouth shut as well. Alright, don't get angry. I'll think again. There must be a clue somewhere in all that evidence in the court record. this too. Symbol of Yumei University. Every student wears this pin with pride. Funny, but most emblems seem to be either round or rectangular. I like the spike design, even if it doesn't really make any sense. Although it does cause problems. Lots of students end up cutting their fingers on the badges. Perhaps it was the idea of one of the founders, a sharp pin for a sharp mind. My personal student number is engraved on the back here. If you lose your pin, they won't accept you as a Yumei student at the university. You may not come in, they say. Of course, you can get a new pin made if you just tell them your number. I've actually lost mine twice already, and I still don't know my student number by heart, which is kind of sad, because it's a pretty simple number. I always say to myself, I mustn't forget to write it down somewhere, but then I forget not to forget then I forget not to forget that. Of course, of course. Let's see the seating charts. Oh yeah, we can examine this now. Aha. Chief Inspector Satoru Hosonaga, Primary Criminal Investigation Division, Imperial Police Bureau. Well, that's unexpected. What is? Look, do you see it? It says the witness's name here. Satoru Hosonaga. Well, yes, business cards do tend to show the person's name. That's sort of the point. It's not the name that's unexpected, it's his job title. His job? Oh. Chief Inspector Satoru Hosonaga, Primary Criminal Investigation Division, Imperial Police Bureau. Inspector? What on earth? I have no idea. But let's face it, the police have a lot of power and influence, if they're wielding it somehow here. So the waiter is secretly a police inspector. Well, that seems like our likely culprit then. Now that I think about it, there might be some pieces of evidence I haven't thoroughly examined yet. Your Excellency! Gonna have to close my eyes and shout. The inspector.
Yes!
Well, surely that would be Satoru Hosonaga-san. Hosonaga-san? The waiter who took the stand earlier.
Objection!
Poppycock! What possible reason would the waiter have to make these witnesses give false testimony? Not to mention the fact that even a head waiter could not possibly have that level of influence. For once, I would agree with you. If, that is, the man truly were a waiter. What? Come on, Ryunosuke. Time to hit this court with the truth. The truth about Satoru Hosonaga's son's real identity as proven by this evidence.
Yes!
The plan of the restaurant sketched by the man in question? I agree, it shows a great detail of attention to detail. I'm not sure we can conclude anything. Sorry, Your Excellency, that's the back of the card. The back of the card. Beg your pardon? Perhaps I should have said the front? Yes, the front of the back of the card. That's where the telling detail is. Would somebody please explain what this overexcited student is trying to say? Hosonaga-san sketched the plan of the restaurant on the reverse side of the back of the front of his business card. The front of the back of that business card reveals the man in question's profession, his true profession. The waiter's profession? But that's surely... Good gracious! That's right, Your Excellency. The card reads, Chief Inspector, Primary Criminal Investigation Division, Imperial Police Bureau. What? The waiter is a police detective? I haven't heard any mention of this before. Why haven't I heard any mention of this before? The Imperial Police Bureau has immense power. Absolute power as far as regular civilians are concerned. So, witnesses there in the stand. Was it in fact the waiter who gave you your orders? Was it he who told you not to mention that you'd seen this foreign gentlewoman at the scene? Well... Old... Inspector Hosonaga! Return to take the stand. I was worried something like this may happen. The moment you asked me to submit my sketch as evidence, I realized it was a possibility. Flashback to literally earlier today. Okay. Maddock. Yes, I remember now. He did act strangely when the judge asked him to hand over his business card. I strive to carry out all investigations flawlessly. It's my guiding principle as a waiter. But I let myself be distracted when I made that sketch. It was an unusually careless mistake. So, you mean to say you really are a detective? But why would a detective be working as a restaurant waiter? Unless, of course, he had something to hide. Your salary must be terrible. I was working undercover. Undercover? Yes, there has been a series of incidents at the restaurant lately. In order to investigate, I decided to get a job there as a waiter working undercover. Incidents at the restaurant? What kind of incidents? That would be classified police information, which I am not at liberty to divulge. However, I can state categorically that they are unrelated to this case of homicide. Very well then, Inspector Hosonaga, but you will elaborate on one point for the court. Of course, Your Excellency. We have just heard new information from these two witnesses beside you. That at the time of the shooting, there was in fact another person present at the victim's table. If that is indeed true, clearly you would also have been aware of this person's presence, having served at the table in question. However, your testimony did not allude to this other diner. Therefore, I am led to assume that in your professional capacity as a police officer, you required these witnesses to be in agreement. Would that be correct? Yes. Unbelievable. As I suspected. Bang. And then we shot him in the courtroom. As soon as I heard the gunshot, I ran out of the kitchen to see what had happened. The victim sat slumped in his chair, and beside him, gun in hand, stood the accused student. Sitting opposite the victim at the same table was a young lady whom I guessed to be an Englishwoman. So the truth comes out. I immediately sealed off the restaurant and reported the incident to the Bureau. It was then that I received some special orders. Special orders? You mean to say... Yes, the house special. Oh, remove the Englishwoman from the scene at once. It was made clear that the Englishwoman's presence at the restaurant was to be concealed. Those were my orders. But what if this Englishwoman was the killer? I think it would be in everyone's best interests not to pursue that idea. The Empire views the friendly terms of its relationships with Britain more highly than anything at the moment. An Englishman has been murdered on our soil. To name an Englishwoman as the primary suspect, without irrefutable evidence, that would be completely out of the question. So that's the reason for the disappearance of the Phantom Woman. But it's not right. One possibility does spring to mind. What do you mean? UMay University is currently hosting a number of exchange students from Great Britain. And I'm fairly certain that one of them, studying in the Medical Facilities Research Laboratory, is a young Englishwoman. Unheard of. You're a shrewd man. I can see why you're the chosen candidate for the overseas study tour. You mean, when I removed the woman from the scene of the crime, I thought it prudent to check her identity first. And the court demands that you name the lady in question at once, Inspector. The Englishwoman sitting at the university professor's table was a certain Miss Giselle Brett. She is indeed a foreign student studying in the research laboratory of UMay University's medical faculty. What is happening here? I admit that under orders from the police bureau, I erased all evidence of this lady's presence at the scene and ordered these witnesses to make no mention of her in their testimonies. It must now be up to Your Excellency to decide how to deal with the situation. This judge has had enough of this shit. Very well. My thoughts on the matter are as follows. Thus far, the case presented to the court has been underpinned by a particularly critical premise. Namely, that the victim was dining alone. However, as we have now discovered that this premise is false, it would be a desecration of our justice system to ignore the truth and give a ruling at this point.
Objection!
But Your Excellency, that would mean missing the noon deadline in order to send the telegraphic report to Great Britain. Our own government will surely be very displeased by such actions. Calm yourself, Counsel. I will not allow the government of our country or any other to influence the proceedings of my courtroom. Inspector Hosonaga. Yes, sir? You will locate this Giselle Brett and escort her to the courtroom with the utmost urgency. At once, Your Excellency. But that means you'll be going against the special orders you were given from the police. As I said before, it is my guiding principle to carry out all investigations flawlessly. So it won't be a problem. The blood might be, though. Nothing will get in my way. Court will adjourn briefly. The prosecution must call the English student, Giselle Brett, to the witness stand. Do I make myself clear? Yes. Your Excellency! Good. Then we will have a 30-minute recess before reconvening. Bonk. To be continued. Of November, 11:38 a.m. Supreme Court of Judicature, Defendants Antechamber 5. Excellent work, Ryunosuke. That was superb. My heart was in my mouth the entire time. It was almost unbelievable. I mean, looking at you in there, you were drenched in sweat, your eyes popping, your knees knocking, and you were grinding your teeth. It was a grim sight, but before I knew it, you'd started finding inconsistencies in the testimonies. Think you might have a natural talent for being a lawyer. Forget it, it's terrifying. If I get through this, I don't ever want to see the inside of a courtroom again. Ha ha ha! Anyway, it looks like we've exposed your phantom lady at last. Miss Giselle Brett, student from Great Britain. Is she... That's what I was trying to tell everyone from the start. Dr. Wilson wasn't alone. There was a young woman with him, like I've been saying the whole time. Yes, you have, haven't you? I might not be overly confident in the courtroom, but my powers of observation are one thing I am sure of. Yes, I can see that. So, about this young gentlewoman. Thanks to our detective friend, she was hastily escorted away from the scene, it seems. Did you see what happened with that? No, I didn't see any of it. I was looking at the gun. Didn't have time to think about where the sound of the gunshot had come from. The waiter ran over to me looking as white as a sheet, and he bundled me into some sort of small pantry next to the kitchen. Fast thinking by the detective, he apprehended his suspect without a moment delay. And because I was shut in the pantry, I have no idea what happened outside in the dining area. Ah, there you are. Well done, both of you. I accused you in court. Professor Mikitoba. Well, it seems I was right. The pair of you make an outstanding team. You've exceeded my expectations, I have to say. Yes, it seems you planned this from the start. You arranged things so that I wouldn't be able to act as a lawyer in this trial. Our modern country is still in its infancy, our justice system even more so. Which is why I firmly believe we need to send our brightest young stars overseas to learn all they can about American law, so they can practice it here in Japan. I wanted to avoid a situation that may have resulted in your study tour to Great Britain being cancelled. Well, it makes no difference, lawyer or otherwise, if I'm the kind of man who can't help his best friend avert the worst crisis of his life. I shouldn't waste everyone's time by going to study overseas anyway. What are you saying, Kazuma? So that's your stance. I was afraid you'd feel that way. Kazuma. Well then, it looks like it all comes down to you, young man. To me? Yes, you need to prove your innocence and uncover what really took place in that restaurant. I must say, I very much want to know the truth. After all, I have a personal connection to this case. Come to think of it, he said the same thing earlier. If you don't mind me asking, Professor, did you know the victim? Yes, I did. As you're probably aware, Dr. John was a visiting professor at Yume, and it was I who invited him. Oh, I see. I didn't know that before. Anyway, you're about to go into battle. The victim was a university professor from Great Britain, and a well-known one at that. Naturally, our government is looking to identify and punish the culprit as quickly as possible. But let's not forget who we're going up against. This gentlewoman whose involvement our police bureau went to extraordinary lengths to hide. Yes, and I'm sure the prosecution will be using every tool at their disposal to quash your case. But I've no doubt your pair will put up a good fight right to the last. Best of luck. Bye. I need you to run an errand at the university. There's something I think we may need. Of course. Good luck, Kazuma-sama. Court recess is over. Make your way back inside. Let's get back to it, partner. Let's go in there and deal a decisive blow to justice. Or something. What? Thank you. Really? What for? Well, if you hadn't said you believed me, then I'm fairly sure I'd already be dead. Look, I have faith in you. As a lawyer, and as a friend. Coming from you, that means a lot. If I'm found guilty in this trial, he's really going to give up on his dream of studying abroad. That's the kind of true friend he is. So this isn't just my battle anymore. Whoever we're up against, we absolutely cannot afford to lose. Or to miss the resuming of court. Save the thank yous for after the trial. You can treat me to one of those sukiyaki meals I like from Yume Cafeteria on University Street. With an extra large portion, of course. 22nd of November, 12:09 p.m. Court deadline missed. Court hereby resumes the trial of Rionos Naruhodo. Prosecutor Ouchi, have you managed to subpoena the witness? Yes, Your Excellency, against all odds. And thanks to a certain young stripling, the prosecution is now under rather painful scrutiny from the government. Sorry? Let the government scrutinize. That's their job. It's nothing to worry about. It's highly unlikely that the good relations we forged with Great Britain will emerge from this trial unscathed. Will you still think it's nothing to worry about when the new treaty breaks down and our nation founders? Again, terribly sorry. You ruined Japan. Good job. If the friendship between our nations is really so fragile, then the treaty isn't worth the paper it's written on. You really have nothing to worry about. What do you mean? A secret trial? Anxiety over some foreign government's opinions? A bungled investigation? Missing witnesses? Is this what our nation's justice system is? Is this the Supreme Court of Japan or of England? Whoa, huge burn on England. Shut up, you jumped up rookie boy. You and your friend know nothing of the situation our nation finds itself in. By aligning ourselves with this great world power, we'll become strong. Diplomacy has never been more critical. Steady political maneuvering is what will secure our futures. I won't deny that I'm no expert. I'm just a student, and one who could arguably study harder, too. But standing here now in our Supreme Court, there is one thing that I feel very strongly. A country that fails to uphold the truth in its justice system is a country with no future at all. Well said. Despite the wide-eyed look of terror. You little brats! Thank you, Counsel. This court is the pinnacle of our nation's justice system. That's not good. And exists solely for the pursuance of truth. With that in mind, this trial will now resume with the next witness taking the stand. The visiting student from Great Britain, Miss Giselle Brett. Yes. Your Excellency. Nice hat. Well, what a delight it is to welcome such a fine gentlewoman to Japan, and from such a distant land. Tea! Someone bring English tea! In England, no discussions take place without tea! Is that true? That is true. No idea. So, could we possibly trouble you to state your name and occupation for the court? Of course. My name is Satoru Hosonaga. I've been working undercover as the head waiter at Le Carnival, but my true... Yes, we know about you. We're not talking to you. Inspector Hosonaga, where are your manners? In England, it is always ladies first. Is that true? No idea. That is true. More importantly, a little earlier today, you said something to me. You said your powers of observation are the one thing you're sure of. I did say that, but I'm not sure about that anymore. Your description for this amazing sight was simply a woman. Sorry, Rionos, but powers of observation aside, powers of description are sorely lacking. Guilty. So, dear lady, once again, if we may trouble you for your name and occupation, please. can't read her handwriting? Maybe nobody understands English. Love the eyes still. I'm terribly sorry, dear lady, but... What? It's The lady says her name is Giselle Brett. She comes from London, England. She's a visiting research student, currently enrolled in UMay University's medical faculty. Yes, she looks the part. Oh my, what a rare treat to hear the dulcet tones of the delightful language of the British people. I'm afraid I don't understand a word you said, but it was as beautiful as a hummingbird's song. As far as I can tell, the detective is translating her words faithfully enough. Yes, I agree. You'll obviously do fine in England, Kazuma. Her English doesn't rattle you at all, does it? Nor you. You've clearly been paying attention in your English classes. The court thanks the beautiful lady for taking the stand. Now, if we may trouble you to confirm something, Miss Brett. 3 days ago, at a restaurant called La Carnival, a murder took place. The court has been led to believe that you were dining there with the victim, Dr. Wilson, at the time. Going to town on a steak with your bare hands. Is that correct? She says, yes. This could take some time. So even though she's studying here in Japan, she can't speak any Japanese? She'd like to apologize for disappearing from the scene. She says that she was due to make a presentation at the university, so she had to leave immediately. Perfectly valid reason for fleeing a crime scene. Interesting, when you're the one who engineered her escape. I was just following special orders from the Bureau. Well now, dear lady, would you be so kind as to cast your eyes over this photographic print? Seeing as you were so unfortunately present at the scene of the crime, could it be that your resplendent eyes caught sight of the wicked perpetrator, perhaps? Apparently it was a very frightening and sorrowful sight. Do you mean to say? Yes, it would appear the lady did witness the crime. The very moment when the accused, standing right there in this courtroom, shot the victim in cold blood. Order! Order in court! Did you hear that, Your Excellency? Here we have an absolutely conclusive witness statement. Well, it looks like it's clear now. Clear who our real enemy is. Unfortunately, I will have to ask you to formally testify, if you please. Kindly tell the court the exact nature of this frightening and sorrowful sight that you described. More whispering in English. She doesn't even have eyeballs. Witness testimony. Also, are you allowed to wear masks in court? Yes, I see. I had arranged to meet for a slightly late luncheon with Dr. Wilson that day. The professor was unable to eat, so I ordered for myself only a beef steak. After a while, the accused came over to greet the professor, and they got into a fierce argument. Then, not long afterwards, the accused took the professor's gun and shot him right before my eyes. I don't carry a gun myself, so obviously I couldn't have been the culprit. This is a condemning testimony
Yes.
indeed. No! I didn't have any kind of argument with the professor at all.
Objection!
Quiet, you filthy wretch! Look at you, you black-hearted blackguard. And look at this snow-white angel. I'm sure even a dark-minded scoundrel like you can imagine whose words the court is going to believe. You're still making the same mistakes, Ryunosuke. You mustn't blurt out when you're goaded like that. That's a lesson you need to learn. But he's so annoying. Of course, I was at the scene as well. I took statements from this lady and the 2 witnesses who testified before and reported back to the Bureau. It was decided that Miss Brett was not involved, so I let her go. The testimonies of the last 2 witnesses were completely worthless, however. Well, even so, on the day in question, the lady was wearing the same outfit as she is today. I also find that hard to believe. As you can see, there is nowhere about her person where she could conceal a firearm. What? What do you mean? There's like 5 or 6 places here, at least. I would think she could, yeah, exactly. I would think she could hide a gun almost anywhere in that outfit if she wanted to. Unless and until the precise location where the witness is to have hidden a weapon can be shown. This is moot. That's right. We have to prove exactly where the gun could be. There are no pockets in my outfit. I have nowhere to hide a gun. Those are the witness's own words on the matter. It's ridiculous. If only I was allowed to lift up her dress, I could prove it. If only. If only we were allowed to do that. Don't think about doing anything rash, Ryunosuke. I didn't fire the gun I picked up. There must have been another gun there that day. You're right about that, which means this lady was hiding a gun somewhere. That's what we have to prove now. And to do so, we will need to pull her testimony apart. And her clothing. Look, she knows she did it too. The defense may now cross-examine the witness. Yes, Your Excellency. Cross-examination. A frightening and sorrowful sight. Okay, good. We get our lives back or whatever.
Yes!
Pressure on it. What do you mean you arranged? After 2 p.m., in fact. That's really quite a late lunch, isn't it?
Objection!
You don't keep up with the latest fashions from Britain, do you? Late luncheons are en vogue, isn't that right? No. Uh-oh. A decisive English no has quite a sting to it. The gentlewoman is currently working in the victim's research laboratory, it seems. So it was apparently a daily occurrence that they would lunch together. Dental appointments or not. But on the day in question, the victim had another appointment at the clinic first. Yes, which we can prove from the medical report card that was submitted as evidence. That's right. Miss Brett and the victim went to lunch following the victim's treatment, which is why it was so late. Yes, that all makes perfect sense. Such wonderful logic. What a shining example of English intelligence this fine gentlewoman is. So you both arrived at the restaurant. What happened next?
Yes!
What do you mean, a beef steak? He was unable to eat, you say? And that was because he just had a tooth removed. That's right. Was to actually check with the witness before answering. Was Miss Brett aware of the fact? It seems so, yes. She'd heard that the professor was to have some dental treatment. That would mean that it was you who ate the steak pictured here. Is that right, Miss Brett? That's right. Print you have there shows the table exactly as it was after the horrifying events. exactly as it was left. Dear me, what a harrowing experience. To have traveled to a distant island on the far side of the world and be embroiled in such a tragic incident. Have no fear, my dear lady. I swear I will crush the evil fiend that has subjected you to this terrible plight. So the victim, Dr. Wilson, had nothing to eat or drink at all. That's right. Other than some carbonated water. Just water? Yes. Just water. It appears the diners toasted their lunch with a glass of water. What do you think, Ryunosuke? Doesn't seem to be meaningful. Let's take another look at this photo here. There's nothing like I can reveal or anything. There's only one glass, though. Very meaningful. A statement of yours, Miss Brett, has a profound bearing on this case. Well, well, how fascinating. Do tell us, what is this profound bearing, Significance of the statement will become apparent when the time is right. The defense calls for the witness's last statement to be formally added to the testimony. Well sidestepped, counsel. Very well. Miss Brett, kindly repeat what you just said to be added to your testimony. Gotta remember that one. Significance will become apparent when the time is right. I could really use that phrase. I hope there are some more useful tips you're picking up from this experience than that. So we can present this. Let's see if this works. That's it! Let me just confirm something, please. It's to do with this photographic print. Just a short while ago, you spoke of this print showing the victim's table as the crime scene. That it was exactly as it was left. That is correct. Well, that is, it's, odd. Very odd. Dear me, what's odd is the defense's inability to express themselves. Ryunosuke, what is it about the print that looks odd to you? Well, obviously, it's, the cheers. The cheers? Miss Brett just told us that she and the professor said cheers over a glass of water. But if that's true, there should be 2 glasses on the table, not 1. Gasp. You're quite right, counsel. There's only 1 glass pictured here.
Objection!
Are we supposed to be impressed by this nitpicking over minutiae? What possible difference does the presence or absence of a glass make on the case?
Objection!
Minutiae, you say? Could it be that the detective here removed a glass from the table to conceal the lady's presence? Of course not. I would never do something so reckless under orders that I admitted to already. But there should have been 2 glasses on the table. Or are you going to try to tell me they shared? That you can clink with only 1? You can't clink with just 1 glass, even if you do share it. Ah, shit, you're right. I certainly took 2 glasses to the table. Lady? Inspector, what did the lady say? It would seem that it was Miss Brett who took the glass from the table. What? It was all so terrifying, everything that happened. I panicked and thought I should try to hide the fact that I'd been there at all, she's saying. Good gracious! Sorry. Apology accepted by the court. This is of no consequence at all. Oh, please. We must remember that this student had just murdered this lady's luncheon companion before her very eyes. Who could blame her for concealing a glass or two in her state of disarray? Or concealing a gun or two? Really? So do we take it that you are now going to accuse this vulnerable, young, and beautiful woman of mischief? No, this can't be put down to mischief. I'd like to know exactly how the lady took the glass from the scene. It would seem that she slipped it into her gun purse that she was carrying. Gun purse, you say? Yes, Your Excellency. A small handheld pouch commonly carried by criminals in England. So, the beautiful lady has very graciously explained how and why she removed the glass from the scene now. However, the fact remains that this glass has absolutely no bearing on the case. This student has been trying to confuse the court with logical reasoning. How dare they? But in the end, it comes to nothing. No more pretentious accusations. You have wasted enough time already. We're 10 minutes past the deadline. Indeed, the lady has offered a satisfactory explanation as to why she removed this glass. I think henceforth we can consider the matter to have no bearing on the case. Counsel for the defense, are you in agreement? I don't know, really. If you want to pursue this matter further, you're going to need to show that it has some deeper significance. Yes, you're right. So she took the glass away in her handbag. If there's a deeper significance here, it's handbag. Wait, the lady put the glass in her handbag, you say? Yes, do try to keep up. It's already been explained to the court 6 times. All English gentlewomen carry gun bags. Let me see. A little while ago, Miss Brett stated the following. There are no pockets in my outfit. I have nowhere to hide a gun. But what she forgot to mention was her gun, in which it would be perfectly possible to conceal a gun. You're right! Well done, partner. I had a feeling you'd pick up on that too. What are you insinuating, you vile blackguard? It's really very simple. The gunshot was heard when the defendant picked up the gun from the restaurant floor. As he didn't fire that gun, we can deduce there must have been another firearm at the scene. The true murder weapon, if you will. You can't possibly be suggesting... Inspector Hosonaga! Yes? Did you or did you not search Miss Giselle Brett's handbag on the day of the murder? That would be improper. No, sir, I did not. As I thought. In other words, another gun, the one that was actually used to kill the professor, could have been hidden in Mrs. Brett's handbag. No! Order, order, order. What is the meaning of this, Inspector? The meaning of what, Prosecutor Ouchie? Why on earth did you not have the lady open her handbag and show you the contents? Thanks to your bungling incompetence, now she has to endure these uncomfortable accusations. Brilliant work, partner. Do you think so, Kazuma? Blah. Much coughing ensued. Well, what a sorry situation. Clearly, you have no faith in the police. Should I? As I said, I did not search the lady's handbag after the shooting. Simply because it was unnecessary. Unnecessary in what way? I ought to thank the student lawyer, really. I have a piece of evidence here that I had completely forgotten about. I'm going to introduce it now to change the outcome of this trial. This photographic print. This print is of a photograph that I thought would be prudent to take immediately after the shooting. As you can see, it clearly shows Miss Brett's handbag. Well, I never. You can see right through to what's inside. That's right. Apparently, meshwork bags like these are the height of fashion in London at the moment. So the contents are clearly visible. Exactly. So there was no need to search the lady's handbag. If there had been a gun inside, it would have been visible immediately. Uh-oh. As you can see, there's nothing to imply Miss Brett's guilt here. Thank you for helping to prove that. Wah! Order, order. Inspector Hosonaga, you will submit that print as evidence at once. Certainly, Your Honor. I think you've had long enough to cross-examine the witness, counsel. Let me just take a quick look at that photo. What's that? Mark of a bull on the wrist there. That's interesting. Seems to be the only other real detail in this photo. The court has now been shown considerable evidence. As the photographic print just submitted into the court record appears to have no further significance, I am satisfied there is no longer any room for doubt in this matter, and I must make my ruling. Indeed, and there is only one logical conclusion, that the pathetic rookie slumped over the bench before us is the only possible perpetrator of this crime. No, just when I thought I was beginning to turn things around. I'm in a worse situation than I was at the start. Kazuma? I'm sorry. Now that the cross-examination of the witness is over, there's no way to force the trial to continue. What? You mean, this is it? I must say, you put up quite a fight. For a rookie. But the weak are meat, while the strong eat. You are wasting your time. There is no way to defeat true justice. A fact you can chew on to your heart's content from the inside of your jail cell. This can't be happening. Am I really going to be found guilty of a crime that I didn't commit? And Kazuma. His dream of going to study in Great Britain will slip through his fingers. Kazuma. What? Is there really no chance now? You heard the judge. There's nothing about that last photograph the detective produced that we can contest. Which means there's no basis on which we can argue for the trial to continue. Unless... Very well. I will now proceed immediately to the ruling. It seems we will be able to report to the British government on time after all. No, we can't. It's afternoon. That smug little... Ryunosuke Naruhodo, having considered all of the evidence placed before me, I hereby find you... Yes! I just thought of something! Wait! Your Excellency! Ryunosuke? I don't think you can rule on this case yet.
Objection!
This amateurishness is getting tedious. When His Excellency deems that the trial is over, he gives his ruling. That is the most basic protocol of the courtroom.
Yes!
Yes, it is. Your Excellency, just a moment ago, you said this. As the photographic print just submitted appears to have no further significance, there is no longer any room for doubts. Yes, we were there. Now that means if there was a problem with the evidence, some significant detail, I mean, then ruling on the case at this time would be out of the question.
Objection!
This is blatant straw clutching. Look at this print. Look at this photograph. Every time I do it makes me laugh. All it shows is the handbag the gentlewoman was carrying on the day in question. There can be no problem with this evidence. You'd better know what you're doing. I understand your objection, counsel. Certainly, the new evidence submitted by the detective has not undergone the court's scrutiny. However, I fail to see how we can glean any new information from this handbag. My thoughts exactly. Really, the prosecution is becoming tired of this rookie's desperate wheezes. Yes, I am desperate, but this isn't a wheeze. There's something about this photograph which just doesn't seem right. If only I could put my finger on it. Very well, I will grant the defense one final opportunity. What? But be warned that if I am unsatisfied by your response here, I will use this mallet in new ways. Do I make myself clear? Ominous. Yes, Your Excellency. So, take another look at the photographic print Inspector Hosonaga submitted before. And click on the right part, or else. It doesn't light up, but I think I should still press the present button.
Yes!
Yes! Look at this here. There's a very unusual mark on the victim's wrist. That is true. It looks almost like a burn of some description.
Objection!
Dear me, I was pondering what new piffle you would come out with. A burn, you say, on the victim's wrist? Clearly that has nothing whatsoever to do with the magnificent lady's handbag. Yes, that is a burn mark. You're right. Go on, Inspector. The police coroner also noticed it when he was performing the post-mortem examination. It was deemed unrelated to the cause of death, so he didn't note it in the report. What did I tell you? In any case, we have no idea when the victim suffered this burn, do we? And no possible way of knowing either. The more I look at it, the more I find myself intrigued by the curious shape of this mark. However, as Prosecutor Ouchie points out, unless a firm connection to the case can be shown, I cannot allow any further time to be spent on the precise details of this burn. Excuse me, Your Excellency. It would seem Miss Brett has a lunch appointment with the Dean. We would like to know if she may be excused. Oh, of course, dear lady. We shan't hold you up any longer. I'm quite sure His Excellency is about to give his final ruling anyway. What's your thinking on this, Ryunosuke? Do you believe this burn does have something to do with the case? To be honest, I'm not really sure, but I have no other leads, so I'm going to say yes. But if I don't keep pushing, then it's all over. So I was thinking I should just keep digging and digging, in the hope that I might uncover something useful. Right. Yes, you're right. I am? I am? In disbelief. What do you mean I'm right? If we can just link that burn to the case, if we can do that, we might be able to prise this shutting door back open again. Just give up, counsel? You can't possibly hope to do that. Indeed, I'm afraid that without evidence, I can't allow you to pursue what is little more than conjecture. But if we had evidence, and we presented it at the last minute, that irrefutably linked the burns on the victim's wrist to the case, then you would allow it. I would, yes. You have any more hypothetical questions for the judge right before the end of the trial? To tell the truth, I hadn't noticed that burn, but as soon as you pointed it out, what I did notice was the color draining from Miss Brett's face. Really? To find some link between that burn and the case. Think. This is the moment of truth. It is time to find some evidence. So then, the defense will now present its evidence to the court. The evidence that demonstrates an inextricable connection between the victim's burn and this trial. Sell this, right? Can't speed this up either. Okay. Aha! The burn is from the plate here. Okay.
Yes!
What's this, Counsel? Yet another print? Yes, Your Excellency. I believe photographic prints are an amazing invention. Shall we admire it together, Your Excellency? When we humans look at a scene, we miss things. Things like a bull. But in a photograph, things we may have overlooked at the time are recorded forevermore. Do hurry up, rookie. What are you trying to say? To inconvenience this poor lady any further really would be quite inexcusable. Actually, we may need you to stay with us a little longer, if you don't mind, Miss Brett. You see, it's very clearly visible in this other photograph. How did the victim come to have that unusually shaped burn on his wrist? The reason is recorded here forevermore. What? How?
Objection!
You can't fool me with your little bluffs, boy. If that's your game, then let's see how it plays out. Show the court what you mean. Again, that's not an objection. What is in this photograph that explains the reason for the victim's burn?
Yes!
The beefsteak? Actually, the point is the metal plate the steak was served on. The plate? Ah, Your Excellency, are you alright? As you can see, there's an emblem on the plate. I would guess it's some sort of trademark of La Carnival. Yeah, objection! Please continue. The emblem on this plate and the victim's burn are exactly the same shape. Ah! This proves everything. You're spot on. Which means the victim must have suffered this burn while he was present at the restaurant.
Objection!
But even if that is the case, we can't know if it happened on the day in question or not. It could have been the day before or the day before that. It most likely happened at some other unrelated time. Well,
Objection!
Sadly, Prosecutor Ouchie, the chances of that are extremely slim. Thanks. Why? The outline of the burn is clearly discernible. Such a serious injury would have caused quite a commotion in the restaurant. Wouldn't you agree, Inspector Hosonaga? Can't imagine having missed such a terrible disaster, certainly. But, I would say, looking at the picture of the wound, that it wasn't suffered very long ago. And although it's not a particularly large burn, it's extremely well defined, as the defense just pointed out. This was no mild burn, that's for sure. Can you be more specific, Inspector? Well, let's see. If the plate was at around 90 degrees centigrade, a burn like that would have taken around 3 seconds. It's inconceivable that the victim wouldn't have let out a scream of pain then. I've been investigating at the restaurant for several weeks already, but I've not heard anyone scream at all. As the head waiter of La Carnival, I can testify to that without hesitation. But you're a detective, not a waiter!
Yes!
Yes, I am a detective. There you have it. Something isn't right here. As the detective said, anyone who burnt themselves on a piping hot plate for 3 whole seconds would scream in pain. There's no question of that. And yet, Inspector Hosonaga never heard the professor scream, not on that day, nor any before it. Also, yes, 90 centigrade is 194 Fahrenheit, which is too hot for steak. That's right. And the strange thing is, on the day he was shot, I didn't hear him cry out either. What are you suggesting? Well, if the professor had carelessly laid his wrist on the plate for anything like 3 seconds that day, that would be beyond careless, I think, Counsel. Then the rest of us in the restaurant, myself, the sergeant, and the old antique stealer, all of us would, without any question, have heard him scream. Wouldn't you agree, Prosecutor Ouchie? Yeah. So the question is, why didn't a single person hear Dr. Wilson scream? I almost didn't believe it. Ryunosuke, do you think? Can it really be true? I never dreamt we'd arrive at a conclusion like this, but I'm starting to think that maybe I'm innocent? Maybe we've been led into a terrible trap? There's only one explanation I can think of to make sense of this apparent impossibility. On the day in question, when he suffered the burn to his wrist, Dr. Wilson was a werewolf. No, he was already dead, is the easy answer here. No man could remain silent while his wrist was burning on a piping hot plate for 3 whole seconds. That's clearly impossible. Apart from in one particular situation. Are you suggesting? Yes, it's only possible if he was already dead. Already dead? You mean a dead man came into the restaurant and ordered a steak? Knowing what we know now, it's the only possible explanation. When the beefsteak was brought to Dr. Wilson's table that day, the professor was already dead. That's madness! Order, please. Counsel, explain this absurd notion at once. The victim was killed by a gunshot. That's right. That's absolutely right, Your Excellency. This is just another ridiculous ploy by the rookie student, but clearly he has no grasp of the facts.
Objection!
No, Prosecutor Ouchie, it's you who has no grasp of the facts. Beg your pardon? As soon as it became apparent that the victim had suffered that burn while at the restaurant, this whole case was turned upside down. Or have you not grasped that yet? Your Excellency, the court must hear from the witness again. If it's true, as we now believe, that the victim was already dead before the gunshot was heard, it is highly likely that Miss Brett knows something about it. Incredible. I certainly didn't anticipate this twist of events. I'm sorry to say, Miss Brett, that you will have to forget your luncheon engagement. But, Your Excellency, the justice system in our country may be in its infancy, but rest assured, all reasonable doubt must be dispelled before I am prepared to pass judgment. Thank you, Your Excellency. Sorry. Okay. Was that smile? Yes, of course. I mean, I'd be delighted to help. Especially if it helps relations between my country and yours. Miss Brett, you speak Japanese? Well, of course I do. I am studying in your country, after all. But then, why have you been speaking through an interpreter until now? For dramatic effect. The Queen's English is the most refined and elegant language in the world. As a gentlewoman, I try to avoid speaking in your vulgar tones as much as possible. Oh, she's a racist too, I see. But it seems the men in this land possess none of the chivalrous virtues of English gentlemen. Definitely a racist. So I can see that I shall have to lower myself to communicating with you on your own level. Oh, alright. You are the epitome of a true English gentlewoman. We are truly honored by this lavish consideration you so graciously afford us. In that case, Miss Brett, I will now ask you to testify in your own words about the events leading up to the death of the victim, Dr. Wilson. So we're finally going to hear her own words on the matter. Things are getting interesting, Ryunosuke. I'd say. Witness testimony. The victim's alleged so-called death. Unfortunately, I have no idea where the poor man burnt his wrist like that. When the waiter brought my steak, the professor and I raised our glasses in a toast. As far as I've heard, the post-mortem report showed no other possible cause of death besides the gunshot. If there's some other way a man's life can be taken without leaving a trace, please do show me. But of course, this country's inferior investigative techniques probably wouldn't pick up on it anyway, said the racist. That most captivating and beautiful testimony will go down in the Supreme Court's history. Thank you. Easy does it. I hope that is the last time I will have to sully my lips with your barbarous tongue. Oh, forgive me. I do hope I haven't insulted anyone. Not at all, not at all. It is a delight to merely hear you speak, dear lady. And it seems very clear from your testimony that this boorish talk of the victim's burn is utterly irrelevant. I will be speaking to your country's Minister of Justice about what has happened here today. Minister of Justice? May that irritating little bully of a student be given the harshest punishment possible. Amen. Huh? Thanks? Is that a prayer, then? Well, you'll have to forgive the irritation, Miss Brett, and put up with a cross-examination now. I expect you've noticed that this little bully of a student, as you put it, doesn't miss much. I'm sure I don't need to remind you, counsel, that this will be your final cross-examination in this trial, thank goodness. If you fail to demonstrate any problems with this witness's testimony, I will kill you myself. Is that clear? Understood. Got it. Yes, Your Excellency. Then you may proceed with the cross-examination. The victim's so-called death. Don't you?
Yes!
But his hand was on the searing hot plate for at least 3 whole seconds. You can't not have noticed. Do you think so? Let me ask you something. Sorry? Ever since I arrived at this courtroom, and even still now, the fly in those unsightly black trousers of yours has been wide open. You can't not have noticed, can you? Ah! Death by embarrassment. What fun. You hadn't realized. The dear lady is absolutely right. As your friend, you've embarrassed me as well as yourself, Ryunosuke. Why didn't you tell me? Dr. Wilson was a true English gentleman. He chose honorable silence over a vulgar scream. Can your tiny Japanese brains imagine such a thing? Oh yes, I think my tiny brain can.
Yes!
I don't think that's what he's imagining. Well, I can't. Anyway. Wow, didn't know we were gonna get eviscerated like that. That's true.
Yes!
There are some other ways, without leaving a trace. If someone is shot, or strangled, or stabbed, or thrown from a height, however a person's life is taken, there are always telltale traces on the body. Quite right, dear lady. And as our police force has thoroughly examined the body of the deceased, there can be no doubt. Isn't that right, Inspector Hosonaga? As I've said, I always aim for a flawless investigation. There'd be physical traces with all those causes of death, that's true. But maybe there's some other way of killing someone that doesn't leave a mark. If, heaven forbid, you doubt me, young man, you're going to have to tell everyone how exactly you think the professor did lose his life. Otherwise, I'm afraid your argument falls rather flat, doesn't it? Oh, perish the thought, calling such a sweet young lady's innocence into question. On my honor, I, Takatsuchi Ochi, will cut down any who dare cast such aspersions. We need some evidence to back us up here. Evidence. Secret poison. Glass. Glass is the murder weapon. Let's present the handbag
Yes!
photo. Oh, that's no good. The statement contradicts the facts as demonstrated by this evidence. As far as I can tell, there is nothing untoward about this evidence. But, pull yourself together. Oops. What do you think? I don't know. I think this could be hard work. She can speak Japanese brilliantly, but she doesn't seem to want to say very much. The more she says, the more she's likely to give away. Oh, yeah, we should just keep pressing her. She's quite formidable. He uses cross-examination to find out what the burn tells us. Press her on everything she said, yeah. What are you thinking, Kazuma? Don't worry, it's nothing.
Yes!
As you testified before, you were drinking carbonated water, is that right? It's the only thing he was able to drink. Exactly as you say, sir. Although, whether or not the professor actually drank any of the water when I delivered the steak to the table, I cannot say. Damn you. For the benefit of others in the court, it means bless you. It means the opposite. Anyway. Oops. Great response from the bot. Love it.
Yes!
No other possible cause of death. Yes, it's written here in the paperwork. Fatal hemorrhaging from ballistic trauma. Yes. Luckily for all of us, a little burn on the wrist isn't going to kill us. No other signs of trauma. Can only have been the bullet. But it doesn't make sense. The burn must have happened straight away when the plate was first brought to the table by the waiter. Yes, that's true. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been hot enough. And if the victim burnt his wrist on the hot plate as soon as it was brought out from the kitchen, then he must have already been dead.
Objection!
And yet, the fact is the victim was killed by a gunshot. Until you're able to show the court evidence to disprove that this is a complete waste of time. Concur.
Yes!
Inferior? What do you mean by that? In the lands of the Great British Empire, the police store everything found at a crime scene for later examination. But in this country, you investigate once and that's the end of it. Isn't that so? Quite right. La Carnival is open for business as usual today, just days after the incident. Exactly, which means that even if the investigation takes a different direction, vital evidence may be lost. What was that? It doesn't even occur to your naive detectives to try to preserve the crime scene. I'm trying to be as tactful about this as I can, you understand. Killer blow. The lady is as formidable as she is beautiful. Amazing. He's actually admitting our police may be flawed. Perhaps Prosecutor Ouchie is finally starting to see sense. I very much doubt that. Still, there's something about what Miss Brett just said. There was a moment before when something didn't seem quite right. Yeah, Mr. Hosonaga is having a time. It's going terribly. As I suspected, she's a tough witness. We need to find a way to break her testimony, or the cross-examination will be over. Zuma. What? There is one thing I noticed, something that's been bothering me. Bothering you? You mean about Miss Brent? Actually, no. About the person standing next to her. Inspector Hosonaga. He seemed to react a little strangely to Miss Brett's last statement. I was wondering if it might be significant. Alright, I have an idea. Try pressing her on that last statement one more time. But this time, instead of targeting the woman herself, let's see what we can get out of the detective. Alright then. I wonder what Kazuma's thinking. Find out soon enough.
Yes!
Okay.
Wait.
There it is again. The detective's reaction is just the same as before. Why? Up until now, the detective has been in the stand with Miss Brett as her interpreter. But things are very different now. For this testimony, the detective is just listening to what the Englishwoman has to say. This could be a golden opportunity. What do you mean? When people are actually testifying, they're usually very careful not to let anything slip. However, when they're listening to someone else speak, you'll find they often let their guard down. You're right, look at him. He's lost in his own thoughts. It's time to pursue the man and his train of thought. Pursue? I'll explain how to do it now. It's all to do with the witness marker. At the moment, we're focused on Miss Brett, who's the person actually making the current statement. But by moving the marker left and right, you can turn your attention to other people in the stand. While you're looking at the other witnesses, you'll be able to pursue them. Romantically, of course. If you can catch the person at just the right time, you might uncover some new information. If you ever notice a strange atmosphere among the people on the stand, take a good look around. Pursue him. Here we go.
Wait.
Excuse me.
Excuse me. What the? What is the meaning of this? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to shock you. He really was lost in his thoughts, deeply. It looked like you were thinking something just now, Inspector. It's having heard what the lady next to you had to say. If there's something you'd like to say, please share it with the court.
Objection!
What is the meaning of this? It's the delightful Englishwoman who's testifying at the moment. If you can't find fault with her testimony, then the cross-examination should be over. Immediately. Oh. Is that how it works? Absolutely not. The detective is in the stand, which makes him a valid witness. Yes, not to mention the fact that he's intimately involved in the case. Inspector Hosonaga. Yes? Do you have something to add in relation to the statement just made by Miss Brett? Well, yes, if you don't mind. I would like to speak. The lady is right. Our country's police practices are not as modern as those used in Great Britain, which is why I, Satoru Hosonaga, always strive to make every investigation I'm involved in flawless. What do you really mean by that? I'll tell you what I mean. I won't have evidence lacking on my watch. I'm not afraid to take everything I can from the scene of the crime. Plates, glasses, bullets, business cards, all of it goes into my briefcase. It's preserving evidence, you see. I don't care if they call me a crime scene thief. I'm not ashamed of my collection. Crime scene thief? Well, it looks like the lady's remarks touched a nerve there. Take this, for example. This bottle of poison that I found. Is that... This is the bottle of carbonated water that I took to the victim's table on the day in question. And yes, it's lost all of its fizz, having been opened 3 days ago. But it was carbonated water. I don't care what anyone says. Yes, there's some left in the bottle. I can see it. One day, our police force will be among the best in the world. The time is coming, I guarantee it. I can't say I condone the witness's actions, but I do understand the sentiment. The court will accept the glass bottle of water as evidence. Excellent. Evidence entered. Miss Brett. Can you confirm this is indeed the bottle from which you drank on the day of the victim's death? Yes. It was that bottle. She seemed to avert her eyes when she answered the judge's question. Very well. Counsel, you may resume the cross-examination. And the inspector will kindly control his fervor. The label is written in a foreign language that I don't recognize. Do you know what it says, Kazuma? I think it's French. This must be very expensive water. Yes, but what does it say? That's what I was asking. Then go to France and ask. You just say that you don't know. What's that? Carbonated water is the last drink Dr. Wilson ever had. Looks like there's a little left in the bottle, although it's plain water now. You know, I've been sweating so much, I'm absolutely parched. I'll just have a sip of this to keep me going. No, you can't do that. For one thing, that's evidence. You can't go drinking evidence. Oh no, you're right. We don't know what might be inside, do we? You never cease to amaze me in more ways than one. Wonder, could there be anything in this water? What's the matter? You've gone quiet all of a sudden. I think I might have just worked something out. An interesting possibility. Do I... the same.
Yes! Excuse me!
You know. What do you make of that, Inspector Hosonaga? Talking about that last statement. What I mean is, does nothing strike you as unusual? It's hopeless. I don't think you need to push it. Give him some time. For now. Was this a monthly game? Yes, this was a the top voted game for the month. Is this what I'm supposed to do?
Yes!
What is this? The bottle of water? Actually, there is one method of killing a man, but only exactly one, without leaving a trace that comes to mind. Obviously, I'm referring to martial arts. Or to poison. Poison? On the day of his death, we know that Dr. Wilson drank from this bottle of formerly carbonated water. Could it be that there was poison inside instead of carbon? Or perhaps addition to? Could it be that the professor actually died after taking a sip from his glass? Order! And on that day, who was sitting at the same table as the professor and able to slip the poison into his drink? There's only one person who could possibly have done it. Jezzael Brett, it was you!
Objection!
This is outrageous to suggest such a thing without a scrap of evidence. Explain the burn mark, that's right. You little rookie imbecile, have you even considered the delicate situation our country finds itself in now? Have you forgotten that we only just signed an accord of friendship with the British? Have you even the vaguest inkling that your rash accusations could jeopardize the entire treaty?
Objection!
This is not a political arena. This is a trial to determine one individual's guilt with respect to one crime. What? The fact that this woman is British makes no difference. We are here to determine the truth. If I may, I will silence you forever for this disgraceful attack. Shut up, yes. It is you who should be silent. Of course. Dear lady. Where did that come from? I'm afraid I may have spoken unfairly before. I offer my most humble apologies. I'm sorry, my lady. To what are you referring? I described your police force as inferior, but no matter how inferior they may be, you still investigated this particular point thoroughly, I believe. The bottle, I mean, Inspector, and whether it contained poison or not. Of course. You did? Have you forgotten what my guiding principle is already? I strive for a flawless investigation every time. I don't believe it. Naturally, we tested the inside of the bottle and its contents. By tasting it. What did you find, Inspector? I ordered tests for every toxin that's available in this country at the present time. We could find no trace of poison of any description in the bottle of carbonated water, Your Excellency. What? Are you sure? The tests were meticulously carried out by the chief coroner himself. No. No! Could this be a last-minute setback? I'm very grateful to you, all you Japanese. You've successfully established my complete innocence in this horrid affair. Thank you. But of course, dear lady, the pleasure was all ours. I was so sure. This can't be right. Everything falls into place if he was poisoned. Especially the burn. Thank you, counsel. I think that cross-examination has clarified everything. As the prosecution have asserted, a shot to the chest from the gun is the only conceivable cause of death. Furthermore, the accused, who by his own admission was holding this weapon, is the only possible culprit. I'm done for. The court wishes to apologize for the great inconvenience this has caused you, Miss Brett. Oh no, I am just glad the matter is resolved. Before proceeding, I must ask the counsel for the defense, do you have any further new evidence to present the court at this point? At the very end of the trial. Kazuma? I got nothing, buddy. Well, if you excuse me now, I really must be leaving. Toodaloo.
Hold it!
Please, wait. Isn't that... What is the meaning of this? Forgive me for intruding on court proceedings, Your Excellency. Sato Mikitoba, a judicial assistant to the defense. Mikitoba? In my darkest hour, with nowhere left to go, she appeared like a bolt of lightning. And in her hand, she carried a small package, wrapped in a furoshiki cloth. To be continued.